Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome back. I'm Fuzz, and today, as promised, I do have a list of my top 10 favorite Val Kilmer movies on physical media. Of course, we just lost Val Kilmer recently at the relatively young age of 65 years old, so it's a tragic loss for Hollywood, a tragic loss for the film industry in general. He will absolutely be missed. You know, I've always liked Val Kilmer. I've always thought he was just like the coolest actor, and I've always had an enormous amount of respect for the work that he did. He's always kind of struck me as the kind of actor that actually took the art form seriously. And when I say that, I don't mean that in like any kind of like pretentious, like, oh, he takes his craft seriously. You know, I know that sounds ridiculous. I don't mean it like that. I mean it like he really did take the art form seriously. And it seemed like he would really just kind of throw himself into pretty much any role he was given. I just always got the impression that this was an actor who had an incredible amount of dedication and commitment to really delivering on the performances that he gave. I feel like Val Kilmer had quite a bit of range as an actor. If you look at his catalog of films, it really is a very eclectic selection of films. He did all kinds of stuff, you know, and you could almost, I mean, what I'm about to say is probably a little bit hyperbolic or a little bit of an exaggeration, but I think you can almost make the case that Val Kilmer, it seemed like he almost never wanted to do the same thing twice, right? It seemed like Val Kilmer was just always trying to challenge himself and try new and different things and, you know, add exciting new elements to his profile and his career. So yeah, I've always just had a ton of respect for the work that Val did and the things that he accomplished throughout his career. So this video is kind of my own way of paying tribute to Val with a top 10 list of my personal favorite films that he appeared in. And I'll get to the list here in just a moment, but before I do that, we do have a new Fuzz Club member that I want to give a quick shout out to. Warren Bottomley just became the latest member of the Fuzz Club. Warren, thank you so much for your added support of the channel. I really appreciate it. And I've enjoyed chatting with you so far in the comments, and I definitely look forward to more of that, but your support means a lot to me, so thank you so much. And if any of you would like to know more about the Fuzz Club, there is a link in the description below. You can just click on that or click on the join button below and it'll bring up all the membership information for you. All right, so without any further ado, let's get right into this Val Kilmer list and rock it. All right, so starting off with my number 10 here, we've got a fun little 2005 movie called Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Robert Downey Jr. and Val Kilmer together in this one. And this one's a lot of fun. It is a Shane Black written movie, right? So that means rapid fire wisecracks, right? There's a lot of witty dialogue and rapid fire wisecracks, a lot of banter back and forth between the characters. And it's pretty entertaining. And Val Kilmer's performance in this is pretty great too. It's pretty amusing. And I would say this movie is kind of like a dark comedy mixed with like a crime drama murder mystery, right? But it definitely has dark comedic elements to it. And I think that's what makes this film so enjoyable to watch. So if you're looking for some Val Kilmer movies to watch and you've never seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, this is one you might want to check out. It's also a good movie to watch around the holidays too. You know, Shane Black, he incorporates Christmas into so many of his movies, and this is definitely no exception. So it's a fun movie to watch around the holidays. I only saw this movie for the first time myself just last year. But I got a kick out of it. So yeah, if you've never seen it and you're a fan of Val Kilmer, this might be one you want to consider checking out at some point. So Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. And next up, we've got a fun little sci-fi movie from the year 2000, Red Planet. Val Kilmer, Carrie-Anne Moss, Tom Sizemore. It's got some other good people in it as well, Benjamin Bratt and Terrence Stamp. But it's a fun little movie. It's about mankind's first manned mission to Mars. So this is, and I always love stuff like this, right? And Val Kilmer's great in this movie. He actually is one of the best things about this movie. So his performance in this is I think it's pretty solid. Now, I'll be honest, it's not the greatest movie out there, right? But it is entertaining. I recently rewatched this in preparation for this video, and it was more entertaining than I remembered this movie being before. So I got a kick out of it. Although I'll be the first to admit that the CGI is pretty dated. It does look pretty cartoonish. I mean, 2000 CGI. Yeah, we weren't quite there yet with CGI. So, that's one of the drawbacks to this film. But, again, it's one of those things that's part of the charm of the film. It's a snapshot in time of where we were at with CGI when the movie was made. So I can handle it. It doesn't really bother me. So as long as you don't mind a little bit of cartoonish looking CGI, then yeah, you might want to give this one a try if you've never seen it and you are a fan of Val Kilmer. It's a fairly engaging film, and it's got some good suspense in it as well. So yeah, I had a lot of fun revisiting this one not too long ago. So yeah, for my number 9, Red Planet. And moving right along to my number 8, we've got a title here that was kind of a tough one for me. I wasn't really sure what to do with this movie because it's not the kind of movie that I can personally revisit very often. I haven't seen the movie in years, but yet at the same time, I do think it's one of the finest performances that Val Kilmer has ever given in any movie. So I felt like I had to have it on the list somewhere, right? So I wasn't really sure where to put this. You can buy this on 4K. I just don't own it on 4K yet, but I am talking about The Doors from 1991. Val's performance as Jim Morrison was just incredible. I mean, he really did absolutely nail Jim Morrison, or at least that's how it seemed to me. Now, this is a movie I actually saw when it came out in the theater originally, and the girl I was dating at the time, she was a huge fan of The Doors. The Doors was her all-time favorite band, right? And it just so happened that this movie happened to be coming out while I happened to be dating her. So we went and saw this, and she was just super stoked about this movie. And it was a really good movie. I thought it was excellent. I mean, first of all, you've got the great Oliver Stone directing, and the guy knows what he's doing. I mean, Oliver Stone, I've always had a lot of respect for his work as a director, and The Doors was no exception. But I can remember seeing this movie in the theater at the time and just being completely blown away by Val Kilmer's performance and how he was able to transform himself into Jim Morrison so convincingly. You really did feel like you were watching Jim Morrison on the screen. So this is one of those movies that I think is an excellent, well-done film, but because I'm not personally the biggest Doors fan, it's not the kind of movie that I can revisit very often, right? And as such, I've never gotten around to picking it up on 4K. I may add it to my collection at some point, and I'm sure it looks fantastic in 4K, but I just haven't been in the mood to revisit this one. Even preparing for this list, I was like, man, do I have to watch The Doors? I'm just not feeling it right now. But I mean, it's not like watching The Doors is a chore. It's just, even though I love Val's performance in it, it's just not the kind of movie I can revisit very often. It doesn't have a real high rewatch value for me. But it's one of those movies that I recommend everybody see at least once, just for Val Kilmer's performance. So yeah, for my number 8, The Doors. And coming in at number 7 for me, we've got a film here from 1995 that I only saw for the first time just in the last week or two, Batman Forever. Now, I'm a huge Batman fan. I love Batman, but I had never gotten around to seeing either the Val Kilmer film or the George Clooney film, right? And I'm still not going to watch the George Clooney film because I just don't like George Clooney, right? But I do like Val. And I was like, as I was preparing for this video, I was like, if I'm going to do a Val Kilmer video, I have to see how Val does playing one of my favorite superheroes, right? And so I did decide to pick this up on 4K, and to be honest, I had a lot of fun with this. This was a much better film than I thought it was going to be. It was a blast, and it looks fantastic on 4K too. In fact, I was surprised at how good it looked on 4K. I guess I shouldn't be because, that's the 4K format. And there was a lot of stuff in this film that was done, practically with practical effects. So that tends to look really good in 4K if the restoration's good. Well, this one just had a lot of great detail and colors that just looked out of this world. Lots of pop to the colors and lots of depth to the image. But more importantly, I think Val Kilmer really did a good job in this role. And honestly, it kind of bums me out that he didn't come back and do another Batman movie, because I would much rather see another Val Kilmer Batman movie than a George Clooney Batman movie. So it's kind of a bummer that we only ever got the one Batman movie from Val Kilmer. But it is a fun movie. Great cast too. You know, you got Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. You have Jim Carrey, and I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest Jim Carrey fan, but he did do a pretty good job as the Riddler in this. It was, I mean, you know, he's his usual cartoonish self, as you would expect from Jim Carrey, but it was appropriate certainly for this film. So I thought he did a decent job with the role. So yeah, I'm not really sure what else I can say about this one. I did have a good time watching this one for the first time, and it is one of those movies that I kind of wished I had seen sooner, especially being a big Batman fan. I was like, you know, watching Val's performance, I was like, why didn't I watch this sooner? You know, because I do like Val Kilmer. I've always liked Val Kilmer, but I don't know, it could have just been like some sort of mental block for me. Like I couldn't get past the fact that it wasn't, you know, either Christian Bale or Michael Keaton. But either way, I just wish I hadn't waited quite so long on this one, because Val Kilmer really did do a great job as the Caped Crusader. So yeah, for my number 7, Batman Forever. All right, next up for my number 6 is a movie that I've always liked, but I hadn't actually seen it in quite some time, you know, up until about a week and a half ago. It had been many years since I had seen this. And I'm talking about The Saint from 1997. Great film, kind of almost kind of like a spy espionage kind of thriller with Val Kilmer and Elizabeth Shue. Great performance from Val Kilmer in this. Now, the interesting thing about this movie is I had to stream the movie. I was considering picking up an old Blu-ray, trying to hunt down an old Blu-ray of it and just picking that up, because I definitely wanted to rewatch this one before I made this video. So I was looking around, and then I noticed on streaming it was actually available on 4K. And that kind of surprised me. It's like, I don't think we ever got a 4K disc of this yet. And I do feel like I saw some sort of announcement somewhere. I don't even remember where it was, but I feel like I heard some murmurings about it maybe getting a 4K release from someone. I'm not sure where that was. Second Sight, maybe? I'm not even sure. But I feel like I saw something somewhere that this might be getting a 4K release on disc at some point. So I noticed it was streaming on 4K, so that made me think, well, yeah, it's got to be coming to 4K disc now. So I decided to just stream it in 4K and not buy a Blu-ray, right? Because if it's coming to 4K disc, why should I buy a Blu-ray now, right? Obviously, you don't want to double dip if you don't have to, especially if you know that something is going to be coming to your preferred format in the not too distant future. Well, clearly they already have a 4K restoration done because it's up on streaming. And I don't even remember where I saw it. It might have been Amazon Prime Video. It might have been Amazon Prime Video where I streamed it, or it might have been HBO Max. I have multiple streaming services kind of bundled into my Amazon Prime Video, so I'm never exactly sure which streaming service I'm watching it on. You know, I have, you know, HBO and Amazon Prime and Shudder and a few others all kind of bundled into my Amazon Prime Video package. So on the rare occasion where I actually am streaming a movie, I don't always pay attention to which streaming service it's coming from. Anyway, so I watched it on streaming in 4K, and I thought it looked pretty good in 4K on streaming. I mean, as good as streaming 4K can look. Right? The problem with streaming 4K is you can get a lot of crushing and a lot of like compression artifacts and whatnot. So when it comes to 4K, I always prefer to watch the disc for this reason. You know, streaming problems tend to reveal themselves even more when you're streaming 4K as opposed to, you know, just standard HD, right? If there are any problems with compression negatively impacting the streaming, it's usually much more noticeable in 4K than it is HD. But I thought it looked pretty decent, you know, on 4K via streaming for what it was, you know, for having it be through streaming, right? But it did make me more interested in securing a 4K release for my collection. And so I'm assuming the fact that they apparently already have the 4K restoration done, I'm assuming it's only a matter of time before we actually do get a 4K disc of The Saint. Anyway, if you're a fan of Val Kilmer, but for some reason you've never seen The Saint, I would definitely recommend checking it out. It's a fun movie. So yeah, for my number 6, The Saint. By the way, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, do me a favor and please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you do, don't forget to activate those notification bells as well so you can always be alerted whenever I'm posting videos that you might be interested in. Also, don't forget to like the video as well. It really does help with the channel's visibility and the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. All right, getting into the top five here, and this one is absolutely iconic. And actually, I'm cheating a little bit for this release. I'm talking about both of the Top Gun movies, right? Top Gun and Top Gun Maverick here. I'm going to put them both together. There's no point in having these take up two separate entries on the list, right? But of course, his performance as Ice in Top Gun is absolutely iconic. Possibly one of the most iconic and well-known performances of his entire career. And it was, it was a supporting character role, which, Val Kilmer did a lot of that kind of stuff. He wasn't always in the lead role. A lot of times he had these great supporting character roles, but they were always very memorable. And this, of course, is the most obvious example of that, I think. And then, of course, with Top Gun Maverick, Val Kilmer's final film appearance, it was so amazing to have Val Kilmer return to this role after all those years. And I really do think that it played a huge part in the magic of Top Gun. I think Tom Cruise himself even believed that they couldn't make a sequel without Val, that they had to have Val Kilmer in the sequel. And it was a really emotional moment in the film, right, for fans of these movies. So, but yeah, I mean, what can you really say about these amazing films? Top Gun is, of course, very iconic in our culture, and then this sequel just really took the world by storm, didn't it? So yeah, a couple of great movies. Of course, the first one's directed by the late great Tony Scott. One of his biggest movies, if not his biggest movie. Of course, it always really bummed me out that Tony Scott wasn't ever able to do the sequel that he had planned. I think before Tony Scott's death, him and Tom Cruise were actually scouting out locations and starting to make plans for making Top Gun Maverick. So it's just really tragic with Tony Scott's death that we never got to see what Maverick would have looked like if he had directed it, right? So yeah, anyway. Also, great looking 4Ks. The first one, of course, it looks amazing on 4K, as you would expect. But Top Gun Maverick also, I mean, I think a lot of people would consider this a reference quality 4K. So if you don't have this in your collection by any chance, and you're a fan of the first film, this is the one you should probably get, because it really looks stunning in 4K. Amazing. And I got this Walmart steelbook here. It was like a collectible steelbook. And the interesting thing about this is they gave you alternate lenticular artwork, which in the form of a magnetic plate, which I just attached to the back there. Right, and I'm not going to try and get it off here, but there's an actual giant magnetic plate here, and that's a alternate artwork that's lenticular, and the lenticular art doesn't even do much, But I certainly don't know why I would even have a need for alternate artwork. I mean, you can see I obviously just put it on the back. I don't know where else I would put this because I like this artwork and I wouldn't want to replace it with that other one. So anyway, just a fun little thing that Walmart did when this first came out. So yeah, I think that's about it. About all I can really say about the Top Gun movies. We all know what these are. So yeah, for my number 5, Top Gun and Top Gun Maverick. Okay, and moving right along here to my number 4, we've got a movie that I just talked about recently in my Denzel video. Another Tony Scott film here from 2006, Deja Vu. I'm not going to say too much about this because I feel like I've talked about this one quite a bit on the channel before, but an awesome film if you've never seen it. I love this movie, and it was cool to see Val Kilmer pop up in this role. Val Kilmer and Denzel Washington working together. That's some cool stuff. I really enjoyed that. Even when the movie first came out, I remember being kind of surprised at the time. I was like, oh, Val Kilmer, because at the time I remember feeling like I hadn't seen Val in any major high profile movie for a while. When this movie first came out, I don't know that that was really true, but that's how I felt at the time. And I remember thinking, hey, this is cool. Val Kilmer's in this. And he did great in this movie. But I'm just such a big fan of this movie that I had to include it on this list. So yeah, for my number 4, Deja Vu. All right, and then for my number 3, we've got a big one here for me. This is an all-time, top 5 all-time favorite film for me. I'm talking about Heat from 1995. Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Val Kilmer. and some other great people in this as well. Tom Sizemore was in this. John Voight was in this. Ashley Judd. A lot of people were in this movie. You know, seeing Val Kilmer in this at the time, I remember thinking, that's awesome that Val showed up in this movie. And this is a movie I saw in the theater when it first came out, and it definitely made an impact on me, and I absolutely loved Val Kilmer's role in this movie at the time. Now, he's got a smaller role. It's a supporting character role. He plays kind of like the right-hand man to Robert De Niro's character. But, you know, his performance in this was awesome. And a little spoiler alert here for those who've never seen Heat. You might want to skip the next little bit that I'm about to say. But I've always found it really interesting that Val Kilmer's character in this movie is the only one who actually gets away, right? Things don't work out well for the rest of the crew, but Val Kilmer's character, he managed to escape and get away with it as far as we know. This is just a killer cops and robbers heist flick directed by the great Michael Mann, who, I mean, this movie is the reason that I became a fan of Michael Mann. You know, this is kind of the movie that put Michael Mann on my radar. You know, I love Michael Mann's work, his aesthetics, his visual feel, his whole cool, like, atmospheric neo-noir vibe that characterizes so many of his movies. And of course, I have it on 4K here in the collectible Steelbook edition. I actually kind of like the artwork on this Steelbook. There's the back. I thought it was fairly elegant, except for my fingerprints on it while I'm showing this to you. But yeah, I thought this was a cool, kind of elegant look to it. Kind of a classy looking Steelbook. So that's why I went with the Steelbook over the slipcovered edition. Yeah, this is just an absolute classic cops and robbers heist flick that I think really packed a punch in 1995 when it came out, but it still resonates to this day. It's a timeless classic as far as I'm concerned. So definitely a favorite film of mine and a favorite Val Kilmer performance as well. So for my number 3, Heat. Okay, and next up for my number 2, we've got one that I know some of you out there have been waiting to hear my thoughts on. And yeah, I watched this film just for the first time last night. I'd never seen this film, and I thought the film was so damn good that it actually made my number 2 position on my Val Kilmer list. Of course, I'm talking about Tombstone on 4K, brand new 4K release from Sony. And yeah, this is one that I really enjoyed, and it was one of those films where I have to admit that I kind of wished I'd seen it sooner. I'm kind of surprised it took me as long as it did to get around to seeing this film. Val Kilmer's performance in Tombstone may be one of the most enjoyable performances I've ever seen from him. I was thoroughly engaged in what he was doing with his role, and I think Val Kilmer's performance is actually one of the best things about this movie. And this movie's got a lot of good things about it, right? I'm a huge Kurt Russell fan too, and Kurt was amazing in this. But man, I was watching Val Kilmer the whole time, and how he was working the nuance of Doc Holliday's personality. I just loved it. So yeah, I thought Val's performance in this was just fantastic. And it was a fun film. I really enjoyed it, which was kind of surprising to me because I don't normally get into Westerns all that often. I mean, I'm not opposed to watching a Western from time to time, and I do occasionally watch a Western, but there haven't been that many that I've seen, right? And, you know, when I was done watching this, I definitely couldn't help but feel like, man, this is a movie I should have seen many, many years ago, because this was an enjoyable ride. Absolutely. And I loved everything about it. I loved, you know, the gunfights were awesome. The aesthetics of the film are cool, you know, that kind of Old West aesthetic. And I think while we're on the topic, I mean, the 4K looks great too. I thought this 4K looked great. It looks like, you know, the way I assume the film is supposed to look, right? It didn't look like they did anything weird with the processing or anything like that. It looks solid, and there's some great detail in this, some great depth to the image, and of course, you know, pop, and it just had some vibrancy to it that I thought looked great. Now, of course, I've never seen this on Blu-ray, so I can't compare it to earlier releases, but I thought the 4K looked good. Now, I have heard that there are some out there that maybe weren't totally impressed with this 4K. My guess is the things that they had a problem with were probably things that were baked into the way the film was made, right? They weren't They weren't things that a 4K restoration was going to fix or change at all, right? For example, there are a number of scenes where there's lots of dust and smoke, right? And whenever you have like something that's dusty or hazy or smoky or fog, like anything like that is going to obscure detail in 4K. A 4K restoration isn't going to make that detail suddenly appear because that detail has been a little bit obscured by the smoke or haze or dust or whatever. So I think maybe some people were expecting to see like more detail in scenes where that really should not have been expected, right? Or perhaps like it could be like the lighting in certain scenes. Like maybe some people didn't like how certain scenes looked, but it had nothing to do with the 4K restoration. It was just the way those shots were lit and low lighting in those shots. So I think if anybody has any issues with this, the issues they have are likely things that are baked into the source of the film. They're not the kind of things that a 4K restoration would necessarily be able to address or change. Anyway, I know some of you out there were anxious to hear my thoughts on this, knowing that I had never seen the film before, and I gotta say, it was a great film. I just had so much fun with it, and I'm really glad I added it to my collection as well. This is one where I can definitely appreciate the value of having this in my collection. So, and who knows? Maybe I'll start dabbling in some other Westerns out there, see if I can find any others out there that I might enjoy. Maybe I'll get the Clint Eastwood Westerns, Outlaw Josie Wales, Pale Rider. What do you guys think? Should I get those? I don't know. I wouldn't exactly know where to start because I just haven't gotten into this genre very often. But I wouldn't mind maybe picking up a couple of others. I'll probably get Unforgiven next, right? That's the other one, the other big Western that I've never seen and I was talking about in my Gene Hackman video, having never seen it. So maybe that's the one I need to watch next, right? I was originally thinking about doing like a double feature where I watch this and then Unforgiven just to get these two bad boys off of my plate. But no, I didn't get Unforgiven yet. Haven't picked it up yet. I just went with Tombstone. So anyway, for my number 2, one of Val Kilmer's best performances ever, Tombstone. All right, and then for my number 1, we've got an absolute classic, at least for me. This has a lot of nostalgic value to me. I'm talking about 1985's Real Genius. This, as far as I'm concerned, is an absolute classic, very iconic in our 80s culture, right? This is a movie I used to watch so many times. It used to play on cable TV all the time, and I felt like I rewatched this one many, many times. And then I took a break from it for like, I don't know, 15, 20 years where I hadn't seen this movie until this 4K from Sony came out. It had been a long time since I had seen it. And then when I watched the 4K after all those years away, everything came right back to me because of how many times I had watched this in the past, right? All the classic moments in the film, I remembered every single one of them and was able to anticipate what was coming. So yeah, I was really excited when they released this on 4K. And it looks fantastic on 4K too. It really does look stunning on 4K. I was actually kind of surprised at how good this looked. In fact, I was kind of surprised they even released this on 4K. When it first came out, I was like, wow, we're getting Real Genius on 4K? I did not expect that at the time. But then what was even an even bigger surprise was the fact that it looks as good as it does on 4K. So if you're a Val Kilmer fan and you don't have this in your collection on 4K, this is one I would definitely recommend picking up, adding to your collection. Of course, I don't think you're going to get cool slipcovers like that anymore. I think those were fairly limited. I think it's just like the standard edition is what you'd get, right? But such an awesome movie. And one that I never really seemed to get tired of watching. Even though I took a lengthy break from this film for many years, it wasn't because I was tired of watching it. It just kind of fell off my radar, and I just, didn't see it for many years. But I always love returning to this one, and it really kicks in the nostalgia vibes big time for me. Reminds me of my childhood or my teen years. So yeah, it's such a great movie, so much fun, and certainly one of Val Kilmer's, I think, funnest roles, right? I mean, it did seem like he just had a lot of fun with this movie, and he's hilarious in it as well. You just gotta love Val. This is just like a comfort film for me, and it just has so many great moments that take me right back to my childhood or my teen years. So for my number one, Val Kilmer's absolutely iconic performance in Real Genius. Okay, so that wraps it up for my top 10 list, but of course I do have a few quick honorable mentions. I just want to go over real quick here. A couple of them I haven't seen in many, many years, so there's not much I can really say about them, but I remember them being good movies, so I wanted to at least mention them. The first one is a movie that Val Kilmer made with Michael Douglas called The Ghost and the Darkness. It came out in 1996, and I think it's about a pair of lion hunters, if I remember correctly. But I remember it being a really compelling movie that just kind of sucks you in, and it had some great tension, if I remember correctly. So yeah, if you've never seen The Ghost and the Darkness, that's one you should check out. I almost thought about picking it up and watching it before I did this video, but I just kind of ran out of time. So I'll have to save that for another time. But yeah, The Ghost in the Darkness, it's definitely one worth checking out if you're a fan of Val Kilmer and you haven't seen that one. And then another movie I thought was worth mentioning is the movie Thunderheart from 1992. Again, this is a movie I haven't seen for many, many years, but I remember being pretty entertained by that movie and thinking it was a pretty good movie. Val Kilmer and Sam Shepard in this one. And what is he? He's some kind of law enforcement officer. I think it was FBI or something like that. Again, it's been many, many years since I've seen Thunderheart, but it was some kind of like a crime drama, crime action thriller, if I remember right. And I remembered enjoying it. So if you haven't seen Thunderheart, that might be one that Val Kilmer fans out there might want to check out. And then, of course, I also have to mention Val's brief appearance in the movie True Romance. And this isn't, I wouldn't say it's like a blink and you'll miss him kind of thing. He does show up in a couple scenes where there's some dialogue happening, but it's kind of funny how they handle this. He's basically playing Elvis, Clarence's conscience, right? The voice inside Clarence's head. And so when Clarence is in, the bathroom by himself, looking in the mirror, talking to himself, Val Kilmer is back there behind him as Elvis, giving him advice on what to do. And it's awesome. So, and what I think Val shows up in just a couple scenes in the film, and he's kind of obscured. You can tell he's dressed up like Elvis, but they don't like show his whole like get up full on. You just kind of see glimpses of Val there, kind of in the background of the mirror or whatever. So, but yeah, I always got a kick out of the fact that Val Kilmer showed up in this movie at all. I thought it was funny that he was, Elvis, Clarence's conscience. So good stuff. True Romance. And then the last honorable mention is a movie that I just talked about in my last video, my last collection update video. So I won't say too much here. It's a heist flick called The Real McCoy. Val Kilmer and Kim Basinger in this one. If you haven't checked it out yet, it's worth checking out. If you're a fan of heist flicks, you also got Terrence Stamp in this as well. So yeah, the Real McCoy for my final honorable mention. Okay, so that about wraps it up for my top 10 favorite movies from Val Kilmer on physical media. Let me know what you think of my list in the comments below. I definitely want to hear you guys' feedback on this. What do you think of my ranking here, and what are some of your favorite Val Kilmer films, especially if you've got some recommendations of films that I haven't seen or didn't include in my list. I definitely want to hear about it. Like, what am I missing here that I should be checking out and watching that I haven't? So if you've got some great suggestions, make sure you leave me some feedback in the comments down below. Also, don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Thank you so much for watching today, guys. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you soon.